friends, welcome back to my channel. So as you saw from the title, I'm going to be doing a book haul. I literally have a half hour to film this because I'm getting picked up in 30 minutes from now. I'm going to a winery if anyone cared. But like I said, I'm going to be doing a book haul. It's these two stacks, and there's also another stack right over here of books that I've purchased recently. This whole stack right here are books that are on my April TBR, and that's what I'm gonna start off with because I'm not gonna go into too much depth about what all of the books are about. Some of these books I have no idea what they're about, so bear with me. But yeah, I'm just gonna get into it because I have a lot of books. I just counted and I have about 37 books, so I'm just gonna get started so I can do this in a half hour. So like I said, I'm gonna start with this little stack right here, and these are all books that are on my April TBR, so I won't go into too much depth. If you want to know more about the description, synopses, and all of that of these books, you can go to my April TBR video and check that out. But the first book that I bought recently, I think this is my most recent hauled book. It's Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. Super popular, everyone knows Throne of Glass. I'm currently rereading Throne of Glass, and then I'll be jumping into this one. I bought it because Christina over at Christina's Chapters and Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads, they're doing a read along for every single book that Sarah J Maas has ever written, and I'm super excited, and it was kind of the incentive that I needed to reread the first couple of books in Throne of Glass series and continue it. So here we have Crown of Midnight. I own every single other book in the series. This was the only one that I was missing. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. Next up, I have 14 Ways to Die by Vincent Rolfe. This is a mystery thriller YA novel, basically about the serial killer who has killed 13 girls thus far, and our main character is the next targeted person. Don't really know how she knows, but she ends up on a YouTube show in order to catch the serial killer, so that's where the story is going. Cami from Borrows and Books and Kirsten from Kirsten's Corner have read this book and really loved it, so I'm stoked because I usually love YA thrillers, and also Kirsten and I's reading taste really aligns, so I'm excited for this. Next up is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Casamano. Again, super excited, reading it this month for Spring Flingoween. I feel like I've talked about this book in every single video. The last 5 videos that I posted, I've talked about this book. This book is super popular, and it's basically about this writer who is confused for a contract killer, and it's gonna be like a mystery funny type of book, and I'm stoked. I'm just creating a pile of books on the floor, and I'm not ready to clean this up later. Next up, I have Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. This is what I'm reading for the Latinx reading project that Alicia from Alicia Guzman is hosting, and this is by an author from Uruguay, and it's set in the 1970s, and I don't know much else about it, but yes. Next up, I have the sequel in the Nevermore series, and that is Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow. I read the first book during middle grade March, and obviously I want to continue this series, so I'm really excited to continue it. Next up, I have Cinder and Glass by Melissa de la Cruz, and this was sent to me by Penguin Teen, and this is obviously a Cinderella retelling. It seems like there's going to be a love triangle. We're going to be in court. This is set in France, and I'm really excited to read this month. Next up, I have another sequel, and that is A World Without Princess by Saman Chainani, and this is the sequel in the School for Good and Evil series. Again, I read the first book in this series, which was, I forgot what it's called already. Oh my god, I don't remember. But I read the first one for middle grade March, and I really enjoyed it. If you don't know, this series is basically about this magical school, and they have 2 schools, one for good, one for evil, and basically in the School for Good, they teach you how to be a princess, or the charming prince, and the School for Evil is for all of the fairy tale type villains. And the last book that I have that I recently hauled that is on my April TBR is The Maid by Nita Prose. Again, I'm planning on reading this for Spring Flingoween at the end of the month. If you don't know about this book, this follows a maid, obviously, and she works at a hotel, and she loves her job, and one day she finds a dead body, and they start blaming her. They think she did it. So basically, throughout the novel, she's just trying to prove her innocence, and I think it's supposed to be really fun and heartwarming in ways, and it is a mystery thriller book, so yeah. Next up, I got 3 packages yesterday from Simon & Schuster. They sent me the same arc twice, so we'll see who I send this to. I don't know who would be interested in this, but I got Just by Looking at Him by Ryan O'Connell. This looks like super Call Me by Your Name vibes, and like I'm excited for it. So it looks like this book's gonna follow this boy named Elliot, and he's very successful. He's a TV writer, he has a boyfriend, and he's just living his best life. But honestly, obviously, behind social media and all of that, he's struggling with very personal things. He's struggling with alcohol addiction, and he continuously cheats on his boyfriend. So I don't really know what's gonna happen after that, but it seems like it's gonna be set in Hollywood, and it sounds really good, and I'm honestly living for this cover. But yeah, I got 2 arcs, so if anyone wants one, I guess comment down below. I don't really know. So next up I have Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. Again, this was sent to me by Simon & Schuster. Again, I have no idea what this book's about, and this comes out on May 3rd. And I'm just gonna read the really quick blurb at the top. It says, a high-strung pastry chef's professional goals are interrupted by an unexpected career transition and the introduction of her wildly attractive non-binary kitchen manager in this deliciously fresh and witty queer rom-com. I usually don't read a lot of romance, but if I do, it's queer romance, and this sounds so cute. Okay, let me move my books so it looks cuter. Next up, I have a repurchase, and that is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Recently, Leigh Bardugo announced the title of the sequel for this series, and I owned it in paperback, but I really wanted to own a hardback. I'm actually probably taking a picture today because I'm wearing this black long dress, and like it fits the vibes. But yeah, if you don't know, Ninth House is a series by Leigh Bardugo, and it follows this woman. Her name's Alex Stern, and she has struggled a lot, and she's witnessed a lot of things. She's like the sole survivor of this murder that happened, and one day at a hospital, this man comes in and offers her a position at Yale University, and the reason why is because she can see ghosts. And there's so much more in this story. This is a really, really good series, and I can't wait to reread it and continue with Hellbent. I'm so excited. Next up, I have a couple or 2 book of the month books, so yeah. First up, I have The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I read The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and I really, really liked it. I haven't heard great things about this one, and I honestly don't know much else besides the fact that it's probably set in a Paris apartment and there's gonna be some type of murder. But honestly, I haven't heard great things, but when I'm in the mood to read this, I will go in with a open mind, and hopefully I really do like this. It does seem like it's gonna have a whole bunch of different POVs, which is what I really enjoyed from The Guest List, so yeah. Next up, I have The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I've read one Simone St. James book, which was The Broken Girls, I believe, and I really enjoyed the dual timeline. It seems like this one's also gonna have a dual timeline, and it looks like it's going to be following a true crime vlogger, and I think she's interviewing this woman that was acquitted for these cold case crimes or something. But obviously it seems like there's gonna be a lot more there. She's probably not guilty for those crimes, so I'm excited. And it's going to be set in 1977 and then also POV from 2017, so I'm excited for the dual POVs and timelines because that's one of my favorite things in books. Next up, we have One Italian Summer by Rebecca Surley. This one follows a woman and her mom, and they are supposed to go on a trip to Italy, and a couple weeks or so before their trip to Italy, her mom dies, but she still wants to go to Italy and have the experience because she thinks that's what her mom would have wanted, and they were very, very close. And it seems like when she arrives to Italy, she sees her mother, but like a younger version of her mother, and she kind of befriends her and just starts getting to know her. This sounds like it's gonna be like a tearjerker. I feel like I'm really gonna cry with this book, and I'm excited. This is obviously very summery type of book, so I'm excited to pick this up sometime in the summer, maybe when I'm in LA. Next up, I recently bought The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang because Christina from Christina's Chapters and Hannah from Hannah's Recent Reads I feel like I mentioned them in every video now. They're reading this right now and they're talking about how good this is and how much is making them like cry and how good of a book this is. So I'm really excited. I only know that this is kind of like a war-centered type of book. And that's pretty much all I know about this. This seems to be really high fantasy, which is really out of my comfort zone. I don't think I've ever read a book like this. And I really want to read this one and also Priory of the Orange Tree. But I need to slowly ease myself into these books, but I think I'm gonna be picking this one up pretty soon. Next up, I have two other books that were sent to me by Macmillan. They're both by the same author, and I have no idea what these books are about, so we're about to find out. So first up, I have Traitor by Amanda Macarena, and then I also have The Silent Unseen by Amanda Macarena. From the cover, these look like these are historical fiction war type of novels, but let me make sure. Yeah, so these are YA historical fiction novels, and this one is set in 1944 in Poland. And it seems like this one's gonna follow a 17-year-old Tolia who is half Ukrainian and half Polish, and he just recently joined the Red Army. That sounds intense. And yeah, this is set during World War II, and it sounds like it's gonna be really sad. And yeah, that is The Traitor. This one sounds super interesting. So I have The Silent Unseen by Amanda Macarena. I read it already, but I don't want to get anything wrong. So this one's also set in Poland in 1944, and this one follows Maria, and she has been forced into labor in Nazi Germany for many years, and once she escapes from there, she returns home. But when she returns home, she finds that her village has been completely destroyed, so she starts traveling just like on her own, and then she discovers that the local resistance unit is actually commanded by her older brother, who she actually thought was dead, and then he disappears, so she's like determined to find her brother. This sounds really good. Next up, I have a book that was gifted to me by Alicia from Alicia Guzman, and that is the Book of Accidents by Chuck Wending. Yeah. And this one, I honestly have no idea what this book's about. I just heard that this is really good and that it is a horror literary novel, and I'm stoked. Yeah, it says in here, a new masterpiece of literary horror by the New York Times bestselling author of Wonders about a family returning to their hometown and to the dark past that haunts them still. This is a chunky book for a horror. I don't think I've ever read such a long book like in the horror genre. All right, moving on to the last stack. So first off, I have a book that was sent to me, oh my gosh, who is this? By Tor Nightfire, and that is Dark Stars. And this one is a collection of short stories that are all centered around horror themes. And it has a whole bunch of, ooh, not the stickers coming out. It has a whole bunch of really cool authors in here. So it has people like Caroline Kepnes, who wrote You, and it has Stephen Graham Jones, and John Langan, and Josh Malerman, Gemma Files, and a whole bunch of different authors in here, and it's just a whole bunch of short stories, and I'm super excited to get to this at some point. Next up, I have another book that was sent to me, and this was sent to me by Scholastic, and this one is Witchlings by Claribel Ortega. I recently read Ghost Squad, and these are middle grade novels, and Ghost Squad was kind of a mix of like Ghostbusters and Coco, and this one seems like it's a middle grade novel about these three young girls, and it's going to be centered in a lot of like witchy type of themes. Bound with our magic before the black moon, bound by a circle, for no circle spells doom. This looks like it's going to be a really cute book. I remember that from Ghost Squad there was like a prominent cat character, so I'm hoping there's some type of animal character in this book too. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. Next up, I have The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pakanen. I don't really know, I'm sorry. And this one, from what I remember, it's about this really, like, I guess on surface level they're like a really successful couple, and they look like picture perfect type of couple, but they've been going to a lot of therapy recently, and from what I remember, I think the therapist kind of becomes involved in their life some way. So this is a thriller novel. I don't really know where it's gonna go, honestly, and I haven't heard great things about this author duo. I didn't even know that they had made books before for this one. So I'm excited but also nervous. Alright, next up I have, ooh, not my hair, remember. I have The Lost Drummer by Liz Huerta, and this was also sent to me by Macmillan. I honestly have read the description and I still can't tell you what this book's about because it's very complex. So this is a fantasy novel inspired by ancient Mesoamerica, and it says this gripping debut introduces us to a lineage of seers defiantly resisting the shifting patriarchal state that would see them destroyed. I think this is a YA fantasy. I'm not too sure. I'm gonna have to look more into this book. I feel so terrible that I didn't do research before I started this video, but this is a beautiful cover and I'm excited to get to know more about this book. Alright, so next up I have The Summer Place by Jennifer Weiner. I'm sorry, I don't know. And this one was sent to me by Simon & Schuster, and this one is about this woman who just finds out that her stepdaughter is engaged to her pandemic boyfriend, and obviously they're basically going to get married, and they're getting married at this like little island or family beach family beach house in Cape Cod, and basically all of the families getting together, but there's gonna be a lot of secrets and drama. And on the back here it says a heartfelt and unputdownable novel of family secrets and the ties that bind. Next up I have two books that I talked about recently, and that is School for Good and Evil, which is the first book in the School for Good and Evil series, and I talked about this earlier so I'm not going to go into too much depth, but this is the first book in the series, and earlier I talked about the sequel that I will be reading this month. And next up I have also the first book in the series. I kind of did that in a weird order, but I have Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, and this is the first book in the Nevermore series, and like I said earlier, I talked about the second book in this series. So yeah. Next up I have The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. I recently read this for the Lights Out book club that is hosted by Sav from Riveting Reads, and I was super excited because I hadn't been able to join Sav's book club, so this was the first book that I read for her book club, and this one follows a murder that happened in 1999 on New Year's Eve, and I forget if it was a whole bunch of teenagers that were murdered on the night shift at the Blockbuster video store, and then many years later it happens again but at an ice cream shop. So they think they had like the right person when the murder happened in 1989, but as the murder happens again in a similar fashion, they think that it could be that they didn't catch the right person, or that it's kind of like a copycat type of killer. This was really good and gripping. I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 and I really enjoyed it. Next up I have The Green Glass House by Kate Milford. I also recently read this for Middle Grade March and also for my recent self-care reading blog. I think I gave this book like a 3.75 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. This one's super cute and it follows this green glass house and this little boy, I already forgot his name, oh my goodness. This little boy, his name is Milo, and he's adopted, and you hear a lot about him and his internal dialogue about him being adopted and people asking him about it, but then also it follows all of these different characters that come to the green glass house to stay, and usually the green glass house houses mostly like smugglers and stuff like that. So this is set during like Christmas break, so I think this would be a perfect book to read during your winter break. Alright, final 2 books. So I have Spinning Silver, which is honestly I think one of my favorite books of 2022, but it's only April, so let's not say that. But I read this for my Reading Like Kaylin Abridged video, and obviously I really enjoyed it. I think I gave this book a 4 out of 5, but as I marinate in my rating, I think this is probably 5 out of 5 stars. This one is a Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale retelling, and this one follows 3 or 5 different POVs, and they're all women, and I really truly love this book. So yeah. And also freaking Hannah just texted me and told me that she was gonna send me Uproot It because she's unhauling it and she knew that I really love this book. So Hannah's sending me Uproot It, so I'm excited. Alright, and last but not least, I have the, I think it was February book club pick for Brujas and Books, and that is Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie. Again, this is probably one of my favorite books of 2022, but let's, you know, let's wait till later. But yeah, this one follows a young Cuban girl, and she's had many crushes on boys throughout her many years of life, and then during her senior year of high school she meets this girl and she's just thinking about her a lot. So from there she is just questioning her sexuality a lot and just really struggling with all of the expectations that all of her friends and family have on her. And she is a gardener, which is really cute in the story, and I honestly loved the story and all of the representation in this book, and also the fact that it was set in high school. This one is like major Simon versus the Homo sapiens but girl vibes, and I really love. But I think that is it for this book haul. That was a lot of books. I hope that I don't have to do another book haul for a while, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. It's probably gonna be a long one, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.